This is my own personal Konken, which I have used for 7 years now. And today we are going to talk about the materials in this one and also some of the other materials and how we pick them, including our newest member in the Konken family. So my name is Christiane Dolva and I'm the Global Sustainability Director for Fjällräven, and I'm here together with Johanna.
Yes, and I am part of the R&D team working with innovations and sustainability in relation to products and materials and also in the supply chain.
And you're here to help me today because we're going to talk about materials and how we pick and choose them. And when we look at materials from a sustainability perspective, why is it so important to look at the materials?
The biggest environmental impact of a product occurs during the production of the fabric, where more than 80% of the emissions occurs.
Can we have sustainable materials?
Everything we do has an impact. There are no such things as a sustainable produced material. And that is also why we work with preferred materials.
Exactly, because when we look at the impacts, there are a lot of choices that we can make to lower the impact and ensure that we put products on the market that has a low footprint. But we choose to look at them as preferred, and we actually divide it into different categories when we look at our materials. So we have 4 different categories where we say a material is either excellent, it's good, it's okay to use if we don't have an alternative, and then we have a category of those that we do not want to use. We have measured the material choices since 2013, and up until today, more than 60% are in the categories of good and excellent, and our aim is obviously to have more than 90% within those categories in the future. But I want to go back to this one, just to look at Konken, because we thought that today we could use Konken as an example, showing you some of the different choices that we make. And when you look at this particular one, which I got when I started at Fjällräven 7 years ago, I literally worn it almost every day since. In the world of Fjällräven and Fjällräven products, though, I think that it can still be considered a bit of a baby, because obviously our mission is to create products that can last for a lot longer. For example, like this jacket, which is my grandmother's, that she bought in the late 70s and I still wear today. But durability is key here. So what is it that makes a product durable?
I mean, we can look at different aspects of durability. It can be timeless design, timeless colors, but it's also the durability of the actual fabrics that we make sure that it is as abrasion resistant as possible.
Strong, in other words.
Long lasting, that it aged with a good look, that it's actually been worn in instead of worn out, you could say.
I love that term. It's like the more you use it, the more you love it.
Yeah.
Nice. So why don't we have a closer look at the Konken Original first?
So the fabric is called Vinylon F. It is a synthetic fabric made in Japan. It is extremely durable. It has also the benefits that the fiber expands when being wet, when it's raining, for instance.
As you can probably see, it ages well, I think. It has that certain patina that make me feel at least personally connected to this particular one. It's super hard wearing. We actually use this Vinylon F material also on some of our other really hard wearing backpacks, simply because it's something of the strongest that we have. It is a fossil-based material. That means that it's non-renewable and it is not recycled. But we do consider it a preferred material simply because this can last a lifetime and more. So here we have ReKonken. What can we say about this one?
ReKonken, it's made out of recycled polyester. The source is used PET plastic bottles. They are being shredded down to small pieces. They are then melted into a liquid. and then extruded into new polyester fibers. The simple version of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can talk in details about this, I'm sure. But obviously then we use recycled material, which is good because then we use something that is already out there. So we don't extract more non-renewable resources. The color here is interesting, not only in the look of it, but also in how it's made.
Yeah, exactly. It's made by a technique called solution dye. And it's where the color pigments, it's being melted down together with the polyester liquid. So in the phase before it's being extruded into new fibers. And this means that the color is in the fiber already before we're making it into a yarn. And that saves tremendous amount of water, it saves energy, and it saves chemical waste. We can reduce the waste of dyes with over 90%.
Exactly, because in the traditional way of dyeing, you would otherwise kind of dip the whole material in the dye stuff and water, and here you kind of add it more pinpointed at the start.
Exactly.
This one is different. This is wool then. How does the rewool process work?
Well,
what is rewool? Is that
yeah.
What term is that?
It's recycled
Exactly.
wool, but it differs from the PET bottles. The source of this one is worn out second-hand garments, and also scraps from the production of wool fabrics and garments. The wool is then being sorted. You know, you sort out the other fibers such as polyester, etc. So we only have the wool garments, and then the second-hand garments is sorted by color. So they sort all the red shades, all the blue shades, all the green shades, etc. So the color is actually used in the final product. When we have the color sorted, it's threaded into fibers. That means you make them weaker, you make the fibers shorter. So we have blended the material with polyester, 20 to 30%, to make it stronger and to make it more durable and to make it last.
And it's a material that is made in Italy, which is a country that has long traditions for doing this, which is kind of interesting because it's been used for a long time, but with the sustainability aspects coming more and more into people's minds, it also becomes very attractive to see how we can use old products and create new ones. In the process of finding efficient ways to use our materials, we also realized that it's not only old products that risk going to waste. We also have leftover fabrics from our production process. From time to time, there are fabrics that aren't used up completely. So that kind of takes us to a bit of an odd one out, that we have the Samlaren Konken. This one looks quite different. What did we do here in the design process, and how did the development go?
First, we did like an inventory on how it actually looked in the factories where we produce the fabrics. So we know exactly what fabric is not being used, and to optimize the use of it the most, we constructed this with smaller pockets to make the most efficiency of the fabric use.
So it's a good way of using the durable hard-wearing material, but making sure that it doesn't need to be recycled, it can also be reused. But we also do spend a lot of time exploring how we can choose new material or develop new materials where the input is not necessarily only recycled. And that is the last version and the newcomer in the Konken family.
So this is Tree Konken. It's made out of our own fabric pine weave, which is a wood-based lyocell.
Exactly, and this is the result of us looking at developing new materials. But when we do that, we kind of have the choice between the synthetic materials that are fossil-based, often made from some type of oil resource, and the more renewable versions, and that takes us into the world of bio-based materials, or in this case, a man-made cellulosic fibers, where you use wood as a raw material and create the fabric. But Johanna, give us the short version of how a wood material can be made into a fabric like this.
Absolutely. So we're starting with the raw material. We're starting with the wood made into wood chips. The wood chips is then boiled down to a cellulose mass. And because we don't want to ship tons of water, you know, we don't want to ship the liquid. So the cellulose mass is dried up, made into these papery sheets, and then being shipped. So then in Taiwan, you dissolve it. The dissolving mass is pushed through spinnerets and down to a solvent base, where it's extruded and dried up and made into a fiber, which we then could use spinning a yarn, weaving a fabric.
And getting a konken. Exactly. So in the development of pine weave, obviously one of the things that we spent a lot of time on was ensuring that we know what the raw material is and also where it comes from. So it requires quite a lot of work for us in order to have full traceability in the entire supply chain. And why is that so important?
Yeah, I mean, looking at bio-based and plant-based materials, it's important to know the source, because it can come from rainforest, it can come from crops being better used as food in the food industry than us using it for a backpack. So we make sure that we know the source, and as you said, it's traceable to Sweden. The forest we use is certified and cultivated.
And that work has also kind of allowed us to have a dialogue with all the different actors in the supply chain. It looks a bit different, and that's because the design is actually inspired by how the konken, the first konken, looked, which was more like this than the original one that we see today. So this is a little bit of a smorgasbord of different konkens. But what I think these show in an important way is that when we work with better and more preferred material choices from a sustainability point of view, there's definitely not one single option that is the one right way to go. So there are like several different trails we're following, and I don't think the end goal is anywhere near in sight.
No, and it's a lot of things happening, a lot of new initiatives popping up when it comes to materials and also recycling. I mean, this is where we are today. Who knows where we'll be in 50 years, but we're working on it. We're working on constantly improving.
And push ourselves and push our boundaries, because that's what it's all about. It's really using sustainability as a driver for innovation. So hopefully by looking at these examples, you've gained a bit of insight into how we think on material development, and also seen the newest version in the pine weave. The same thinking and logic is obviously something we apply to all our products, both the garments and all the other products in our line. And thank you for listening, and make sure to spend some time out in nature.